Imagine coming of age in a world defined by systemic chaos. As a young adult, your prime years are immediately interrupted by a global pandemic, resulting in tens of millions of deaths worldwide. While fighting off disease, your cohort is simultaneously dragged into brutal, large-scale warfare. Over 70 million people are mobilized for the effort, leading to millions of soldiers killed by combat and disease. When the fighting stops, you inherit a period of global economic turmoil. You face high unemployment rates and a general sense of hopelessness as the world slips into the Great Depression. To distract from this bleak life, your generation turns to early cinema and a new, rebellious pop culture. You adopt a reckless, party-going attitude that directly defies the social norms of the previous era. Every one of these details belongs to the lost generation, a cohort defined by these specific pressures exactly 1 century ago. This recurring pattern suggests that modern youth aren't just facing unique troubles. We are seeing a 100-year cycle push society back to its starting point. The response to those early 20th century crises started with the greatest generation. This cohort is remembered for mass military service and a unifying culture driven by normalized broadcast media like the radio. This chart shows the 16 million Americans who served in World War II. While over 38% were volunteers, the majority, over 61%, were draftees, serving an average of 33 months. Their children, the silent generation, inherited a world where the defeat of Nazism was immediately replaced by the rise of communism and the start of a 50-year global standoff. To survive this devastated social order, the silent generation prioritized stability. They worked within the existing system, kept their heads down, and married young, earning a reputation for taking few risks. By prioritizing systemic duty and strict compliance, these two generations built an incredibly stable society, but they also created the pressure that would trigger the next cultural explosion. A strong post-war economy gave Americans the confidence to support large families, creating a demographic anomaly. This population pyramid illustrates the massive surge in birth rates. With 76 million births, the baby boomer generation became a dominant demographic force, turning into the primary marketing target for every major American industry. Technologies like dishwashers and refrigerators entered mass production for the average consumer, allowing the typical middle-class family to live at a standard previously reserved for the upper class. This economic safety net allowed boomers to become more radical. They rejected the traditionalist thinking of their parents, favoring left-leaning social causes and cultural shifts. These disagreements resulted in protests that became increasingly violent as the Vietnam War lingered, deepening a sense of government distrust across the country. By aggressively rejecting the conformity of the previous era, the boomers fractured the American social consensus and moved the country towards its current state of division. Generation X followed, often described as latchkey kids. Growing up in an era of rising divorce rates and dual-income households, many returned from school to empty homes. This independence shaped a generation defined by individualism. They were often characterized as cynical and detached from the traditional oversight their parents had experienced. This self-reliance pushed Gen X towards the emerging home computing and video game industries, where they learned to navigate digital worlds without adult supervision. That individualistic, entrepreneurial spirit directly produced the infrastructure of the modern web, including Google, Wikipedia, Amazon, and YouTube. By shifting the world's communication into digital networks, this cohort transitioned reality into the online space used by every generation since. Unlike those before them, Zoomers were born into the internet. They're the first generation forced to adapt their formative years to a world of social media and global connectivity. They've also been called the unluckiest generation. From the fallout of the September 11th attacks to slower economic growth and rising student debt, they face a more complicated path to financial stability. Adding to this is a growing attention economy, where algorithms and social media trends transform not just how information is consumed, but how ideas are spread and popularized. The timeline reveals a recurring historical cycle. The triad of war, economic turmoil, and pandemic, established in the 1920s, matches the sequence of crises defining the start of the 21st century. Modern youth leverage their digital fluency to address these crises, using tools like meme culture and social media to spread awareness for social justice movements and diverse perspectives. The lost generation survived their specific trials through a forced adaptability. If history is repeating its pressures, it suggests the current cohort is developing the same tools of survival needed to navigate a similarly fractured world.